So, what truly makes a person big? Is it their height? Is it their weight? Maybe it's the amount of muscle you have. Or maybe it's something else entirely. With that being said, Markquis Nowell didn't fit anybody's definition of big in the basketball world, and that was his biggest obstacle. On the court, it was clear that he was a flat-out baller. His ball handling, playmaking, and shot making was all there. And on the other end of the court, he gave you everything he had and competed in a way that all coaches love to see. Yet time after time, he was overlooked because of the one thing he couldn't control, which was his height. So how do you overcome something in which you cannot control? The odds are clearly stacked against you, so might as well fold, right? Well, I guess Markquis forgot that he was too small to be an elite basketball player, or maybe people are looking at the wrong thing when judging his size. His performance during March Madness wasn't a fluke. He didn't just come out of nowhere and have a great performance. Everything he did on the basketball court was a presentation for the years of work he put in behind the scenes that went unnoticed and unappreciated by those who doubted if he could play at the higher levels. In today's video, I'm going to cover the story of Markquis, Mr. NYC Nowell, and how he became a 5'8" giant. But before I do that, y'all do me a solid and hit that like button and subscribe. And with that said, let's get into the video. Markquis Nowell was born on December 25, 1999 to parents Keisha Morales and Marcus Nowell Sr. He's the second oldest of four brothers. He grew up on 109th and Lexington in Brooklyn, New York with his mom and oldest brother Marcus Jr., where they lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment and the two brothers slept in twin-sized beds. It was these early life struggles that made Marcus hungry, but being in New York, everyone's hungry, and the basketball scene is arguably the most competitive scene in the nation, as New York is the basketball mecca of the world, and Markquis watched some of the most talented players make a name for themselves, such as Kyrie Irving, Donovan Mitchell, Isaiah Whitehead, and his favorite basketball player, Kemba Walker. Watching all these guys helped Marcus learn early on just how hard it is to be a guy in New York. This was only further confirmed as at the age of 6, he watched his brother Marcus Jr. fail to make a particular grassroots team. This failure was another example of the level you had to be at to play in New York. As a result of the failure, Marcus Sr., Marcus Jr., and Markquis will spend the next 3 months playing at every park they can find against any kid that will play him. Now, most of the time, these kids were much older than Markquis, and if you're going to play at some of these parks, you're going to have to be good because they're not taking it easy on you just because you're a kid, and they ain't picking you up because of sympathy either. It's a dog-eat-dog world on the basketball courts of New York. So the only option that young Markquis had was to get better so that he can compete, and that's what he did. As he spent hours and hours on the basketball court honing his craft to the fullest, as he was being put through all types of grueling training sessions and shooting drills that would leave his body sore and aching at a young age. But it was those same drills that turned him into a basketball player that could play on any court in New York. And though he could play on any court in the city and ball out, he still had many who doubted him because of his size. As Markquis said, he was always on the shorter side. This caused many coaches to be skeptical of him on the basketball court, but it also created the edge that helped his game flourish even more. As a result of all the doubters and naysayers, Markquis decided that he wanted to prove them wrong and declared that one day he'll be in the NBA and that he's going to be the best player to come out of New York, even dubbing himself Mr. New York City and calling out the doubters, telling them to underestimate him so that he can embarrass them. Heading to high school, the stigma of being an undersized guard continued to follow Markquis as he continually fought to prove that he belonged. His high school career started at St. Anthony High School in Jersey City, New Jersey, under Hall of Fame coach Bob Hurley, who was one of the greatest high school coaches in history, producing over 150 Division I basketball players, as well as 6 first-round NBA talents. Unfortunately, when you play for such a legendary coach and program who is known to be a winner and produce talented players, it's going to be hard to find minutes, especially as a freshman. Now, while I don't feel Markquis was ducking smoke or running from competition at St. Anthony, I do think he had to be a little selfish, which, like my boy Zero Bounce said, if being a little selfish helps you get more meaningful playing time, then do what you got to do. And that's what Markquis did, as he transferred from St. Anthony to Bishop Laughlin High School in Brooklyn, New York, to team up with the Champagne brothers, Julian and Justin. Markquis will play both his sophomore and junior seasons at Bishop Laughlin, having a breakout season during his junior year where he averaged about 20 points and 8 assists a night. After his junior year, he would transfer high schools again for his senior year, where he would attend the Patrick School. His senior year didn't go according to plan, as he missed about a month of the season due to injury and only averaged about 11 points per game. He wrapped up his high school career as a 3-star prospect according to 24/7 Sports, but even though he was a 3-star prospect, he allegedly only received one full ride D1 scholarship, and that was to the University of Arkansas Little Rock, as most high-level D1 programs felt that his size was too big of a hurdle to overcome, and that there was no way he could make an impact at a high-level D1 program. Now, while it wasn't an easy pill to swallow that most coaches couldn't look past his height, regardless of him being one of the best point guards in the state of New York, he knew that as long as he was given an opportunity, he would be able to show that he was a capable basketball player, and he was going to use that opportunity of playing at a mid-major to showcase what he could contribute on the basketball court for his team. As a freshman at Little Rock, he started in 18 of the 25 games he appeared in that season. He was second on the team in scoring and first in assists and steals, averaging about 11 points and 4 assists a night, as well as went off in the season opener against Southeastern Oklahoma State, where he dropped 34 points to go along with 8 assists. Things only got better during his sophomore year as he continued to improve and shine, as in his second year he led the Trojans in points, assists, and steals, averaging 17 points, 5 assists, and 2 steals a night, while leading his team to first in the Sun Belt with a record of 21-10. He had multiple big games, dropping 28 on Illinois State and St. Francis, also gave Alton a smooth 29, but really had something on his heart every time he saw Louisiana Monroe, as he gave him the business in both the games, dropping 33 and 32 points in the 2 meetings against them. I guess someone was talking, and we know how New York Hoopers love to give trash talkers the works. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to compete for the Sun Belt Championship as the tournament was canceled after the quarterfinals due to the start of the pandemic. For his efforts that season, he was named to the first team All-Sun Belt. Now, his final season in Little Rock was a little shaky. He only played in 15 games that season, decided to leave the team around the halfway point as he declared he was going to enter the transfer portal. He was also suspended for the first 2 games of the season for disciplinary reasons, and when his departure was announced, head coach Darrell Walker seemed relieved, stating Markquis didn't want to be a part of the team, so at the end of the day, he has opted out. That's the best thing for him, and it's the best thing for us, and we're definitely happy to be moving on. Now, I'm not privy to what was going on behind the scenes, but it did seem like there was some beef stewing between Coach Walker and Markquis, as the vibes from the comments made reeked of bitterness, and most head coaches aren't typically too excited to lose their top scorer and playmaker. Now, even with the road bumps towards the end of his tenure in Little Rock, Markquis has some interest brewing from other schools after entering the transfer portal. But just like he did in high school, he relied on his old friend to set him up for his next chapter. That old friend was Alfred Jordan, one of Markquis' former assistant coaches from Harlem. Jordan hit up his little brother's best friend, former K-State assistant Shane Southwell, who was also a Harlem native, to tell him about Nowell hitting the portal in the spring. Now, Shane was already familiar with Markquis and knew that Markquis could ball, so he passed his tape to then head coach Bruce Weber, who was intrigued but had concerns about Nowell's size like every other coach. But he wanted to take the chance and offered him a spot on the team, initially as a backup to Nigel Peck, but later Markquis know that they believe he could be a starter, with the only concern being if he could start next to Nigel due to Nigel only being 5'11", maybe 6 foot on a good day. That type of size is rough to believe in when both of your guards are under 6 foot and you play in the best conference in college basketball, the Big 12, and most teams have 6'3" and 6'4" guard on the other end. So it's understandable that the coaching staff was a little skeptical, but as always, Markquis knew he just had to prove he belonged in the starting lineup. He performed pretty well in the first 6 games of the season, and by the 7th, he was a starter and never looked back. He finished the season 3rd on the team in scoring and 1st in assists and steals, averaging 12 points, 5 assists, and 2 steals a night. He was also named as a Big 12 All-Team Honorable Mention and the Big 12 All-Defensive Team. Now, unfortunately, K-State season didn't go according to plan as they lost in the Big 12 tournament and were not able to secure a spot in the March Madness tournament. Also, head coach Bruce Weber decided to step down as head coach and made some noise on his way out that had many fans turn on him. His departure caused quite the stir as all but 2 players on the roster decided to enter and lead the team through the transfer portal. One of those 2 players who decided to stay was Markquis, who actually played an active role in finding the next new head coach. Markquis personally reached out to Gene Taylor, who is the athletic director at K-State, letting him know he's riding with K-State to the fullest and they understand that this is going to be a rebuild, but that he's here for that process and has no hesitation where he wants to play next season. Markquis also made some suggestions, saying he's been studying head coaches and assistant coaches and that he heard good things about Murray State head coach Mac Mahanan, but a guy that he's really liked was Jerome Tang, who was the assistant at Baylor. He sent messages to Gene Taylor personally vouching for the hiring of Jerome Tang, so when he saw that Gene Taylor went to go get him, He was excited, and once he and Tank got together, the two instantly clicked, and Tank trusted Nowell to be the veteran leader for this new K-State team, which is something that Nowell embraced wholeheartedly. He went out and recruited other kids from the transfer portal, most notably Keontae Johnson, whose story I will also eventually cover, as that's one hell of a story, honestly. Now, after such a quick turnaround, the expectations for Markquis' final season of eligibility weren't great, as K-State wasn't even ranked in the preseason polls. This feeling of being underestimated wasn't anything new to Markquis, as his whole life he's been underestimated, and just as always, he warns people that if they underestimate him, he will embarrass them. And that's what he did to those preseason rankings, as he helped K-State finish third in the Big 12, as well as got them as a third seed in the March Madness tournament. He averaged about 18 points, 8 assists, and 3 steals a night, which were also all-team highs. He was named to the All-Big 12 defensive team for the second year in a row, All-Big 12 first team, and won the Bob Cousy Award for Best Point Guard in college. He also earned his bachelor's in communications in December. Now, Markquis had some memorable moments during the regular season, like the game against Nevada where he went off for 29 points and 11 assists, or the back-to-back 30-point games he had during conference play where he gave Texas 36 points, 9 assists, and 3 steals, while also hitting 6 threes, and then came back the next game and gave Baylor the business, dropping 32 points and 14 assists in another win. But those games in the regular season were just a preview for what he was going to do during the March Madness tournament. Mans was an entirely different beast once that tournament started. He kicked things off against Montana State with a light 17 points and 14 assists just to get the ball rolling. But after that game, which was a great game already, he turned it up a notch in the next game against Kentucky, where he gave them 27 points and 9 assists, as well as played good in the clutch, which was needed as the game was a close one, and Kentucky was pretty much in it into the final buzzer. Beating Kentucky secured K-State's spot in the Sweet 16, and Markquis was even able to catch the attention of legendary head coach John Calipari, who reached out to congratulate him on a good game after Markquis eliminated his team from the tournament. Now, making it to the Sweet 16 was a pretty big deal for K-State, as they hadn't made it this far in the tournament since 2018, and no one predicted they would be here to start the season, but they were. And to add to the hype, the game was going to be played in the Garden, which is in Markquis' hometown, which he was extremely excited about because this was an opportunity to play on the biggest stage in front of all of his friends, family, and other New York legends who might be in attendance. All the hours of work put in on the blacktop on countless courts around New York, all the pickup games played at the Rucker Parks, Dickman Parks, and Kingdoms of New York, all the countless times he was doubted and had to prove everyone wrong. Basically, his entire basketball journey led to this moment, and he finally had a chance to shine the brightest that he's ever shined, and that's what he went out and did. In the first half of the game, he gave them the work, showing off that New York swagger with magical ball handling and dimes dropping everywhere. In the half with 10 assists, but tragically seemingly struck early in the second half when he went down with an apparent ankle injury and had to be helped off the court. Things didn't look good for K-State in that moment, as Michigan State came rallying back on a 9-2 run to take a lead. But Michigan State fans and players made critical error when they decided to talk their stuff, which Markquis really wasn't feeling. So he did what any hooper who feels disrespected does, and that's ball out and hush the noise. Dude ended up coming back into the game and gave those boys a smooth 11 points in the second half, pushing the game into overtime where he made some big plays, including one of the greatest examples of showmanship that I've seen in college ball, when it looked like he was talking to his coach, and then he threw a no-look alley-oop to Ishmael to push K-State's lead 96-93, as well as break the NCAA tournament's single game assist record with a jaw-dropping 19 assists. The game was pretty much over at that point, but Markquis put the exclamation point on it with a layup with 1 second left in the game. K-State won 98-93, and after the game, the basketball world knew who Markquis Nowell was, as he solidified himself as a true March Madness legend. Unfortunately, though, his season will come to an end in the next game against Florida Atlantic, as K-State lost a very close game, 79-76 in the Elite Eight. Markquis had 30 points and 12 assists in the loss. He finished his tournament averaging about 24 points, 14 assists, and 4 steals a night for his efforts. He was named to the NCAA Tournament All-Region team. On March 29th, he declared for the NBA draft, but unfortunately went undrafted. After going undrafted, he signed a 2-way contract with the Toronto Raptors and has been a bright spot on the Raptors Summer League team, though he did get flamed for his Steph Curry no-look three-point impression after he missed a shot. But outside of that, things look good moving forward. And that's the Markquis Nowell story as of now. And now I think it's time to go back to the question I posed at the beginning of the video, which is what truly makes a person big. Is it their height? Is it their weight? Maybe it's the amount of muscle you have. Honestly, the answer is obvious, and y'all already knew what I was getting at, but it's clear that none of those things necessarily make you big. What makes you a true giant is that thing that beats in your chest and reminds you that you're alive. I'm talking about your heart. And if that what makes you big, then Markquis has to be a giant, because every time you watch him on the court, you see the intensity and passion he plays with. You can feel the hours he spent grinding on the blacktops, working on his craft, the pressure and the force that he exhibits with his mentality. Dude is an absolute giant, and it's all because of his heart. So when you hear him say heart over height, he means it, and you're going to feel it if you're his opponent. So please underestimate him so that he can give us the show that we all want to see. Well, that's it for the video. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. If y'all made it this far, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.